Hey there, everybody. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab. Today, we'll be continuing on with My Thoughts, My Team series. We have Andrew Cooper joining me today to break down the Miami Dolphins. Andrew, thanks for joining me. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, boss.
You want to take a second here to promote yourself? Tell everyone where they can find you?
Absolutely, man. So I am the lead NFL analyst over at Fantasy Alarm. My Twitter handle right here, Coop A Fiasco. I retweet everything I put out. But if you just go to Fantasy Alarm, type Andrew Cooper, or follow me on Twitter, you'll find all my good stuff. Articles, videos, podcasts, whole deal, man. So easy enough for everybody.
Sounds great, man. I was checking your bio. Did you have an FSWA Writer of the Year?
So yeah, I was 2020 was nominated for FSWA Best Ongoing Series for my tight end series. Then the following year, I was nominated or a finalist for Writer of the Year, and naturally, JJ Zacharyson won both awards. So
That
coming in behind JJ, who I believe is right now the best in the game. That's okay with me. You know, I got plenty of time to get back up there and win. So yeah, nominated for a couple. Still looking for that win though.
Yeah, I seen it and I was impressed. I'm new to the FSWA. I think I got my membership at the end of last season, so took a second look over it. Hopefully this year you can beat him.
Yeah,
Stop it,
it's
JJ. Let him have one.
yeah, he's just too good, man. He's a force. The FSWA run by it's like Andy Behrens, and I
Yep,
know like Scott Fish is on some of the panels and stuff. So it's just great folks over there. And hopefully this is my year coming up.
absolutely. So one sec. I'm just bringing up the graphic here. We got our graphic. Let's transition into Andrew's team, the Miami Dolphins. Was this your actual favorite team, or did you just draw the short stick?
Yeah, my actual favorite team is the New England Patriots. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
I told you when we went into it, I was like, you know what, man, whatever team you can't find somebody for, throw me in there. I know all these teams. And to be honest, I love a good rebuild. So the Dolphins kind of set the tone for the modern rebuild, the way they did things. They got rid of a bunch of guys, Laramie Tunsil, all these guys for picks. They tanked pretty aggressively. They didn't go after position players early on. That's why you saw guys like Preston Williams get a bunch of targets, built it inside out, and then they went out and got the weapons. There was a little, uh, a bit of a bump in the road with the Brian Flores situation, but
Yeah,
now they have Mike McDaniel. It's all good. And if you look at what the Lions did with their rebuild, it's
totally.
like step for step the same thing the Dolphins did. So that's why I say the Dolphins set the playbook. I do appreciate a good rebuild, and I think this team did a good job and they're ready to compete.
Yeah, the roster is looking pretty good. So we'll get into it. We'll start with the probably the easiest one here, the quarterback position. Once again, these rosters are based on what ESPN has projected. So we'll see where we disagree and agree with them. But obviously, Tua is the starter. Health pending. There's no reason we should ever see Mike White. So let's hope we don't see him. Tua top. I think I have him 10, 11, or 12 for myself. How about you? What do you see him as? QB1,
Yeah,
low end QB1?
that's right. QB1. I mean, I was drafting him a ton in best ball last year because I just looked at the ADPs, honestly, and where Tyreek Hill was going and where Jalen Waddle was going. And I looked historically at QBs that had two top 24 wide receivers. And I'm talking these guys weren't top 24. They were going both top 15. Tyreek Hill was going like 5. Waddle at the time is like 13. You can't have the two wide receivers that high without a quarterback that's at least a back end QB1. So something had to give. Somewhere the ADPs had to be wrong. And for me, rather than draft the wide receivers, I was just waiting and taking the quarterback. Worked out pretty well besides the injuries. But I believe in Tua, and I've been kind of looking around at some of the information regarding the concussion situation. I know it's kind of a new area, but a
Yeah.
lot of people say that um, the general consensus from most of the neuroscientists and people that I've seen comment on it say that if you uh, go back out and play within a month or 2 months before things have healed, you're more likely to have another concussion. But if you wait until it's fully healed, the science actually suggests that you're not more likely than anyone else to have another one.
Yeah.
We've seen guys like Devontae Adams have 3 in pretty quick succession, guys like Brandon Cooks, and then, they didn't really struggle with it later on. So there's no guarantee one way or another, but 9 months out, I'm not ready to say this guy's more or less prone to concussions than anybody else. So
No,
I'm in
and
on Tua.
I
I'm in.
I agree. I've been in on him. I've been getting him a lot as my QB2 in Superflex, because he's been falling. Last year was my first year of really doing actual projections. And I went through, I did the whole worksheet that I got, I forget who, I think King Fantasy, where I write for. They gave me the little workbook there, and type it in, and it helps populate all the numbers for you once you've typed in your baselines. And I think I came out, when I looked at it, I posted online, and my buddy messaged me and said, "You've got two Dolphins receivers in your top 10, and you have Tua as your QB6. What's wrong with you?" And I sat there and I said, "Oh my God, am I crazy? What's going on?" And then I stuck with it. And as the season's going on, I'm going, I may have been too low on these guys.
Right? Yeah, it's just not realistic to put those wide receivers that high without the
Yeah.
QB being that high. And the
Yeah.
beautiful thing with these wide receivers, and I mean we're gonna get to the wide receivers, so I won't jump
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, like we said, Tua was pretty easy. The running back room is a little more muddied up. They're kind of like the San Fran of the AFC. Everyone's going to have a little bit of time in there. They're all going to have a good week probably, and they're all going to battle injury. They've got the starters listed as Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, with the backups being Myles Gaskin, Salvin Ahmed, and Devon A-Chain. This lineup of running backs, I think I'm going to own some Mostert and Wilson if the cost is right. I like them as a flex play. Gaskin and Ahmed, I'm probably going to avoid, but I love the speed and talent of A-Chain. And with two older injury-prone running backs in front of him, if he ever does see the light of day, he's going to fit perfect into this system, and he could absolutely explode. Rookie drafts right now, I have been avoiding him. Post draft, his price tag's gotten a little too high for me. I seen him go the other day as the 105, 106. But I think as far as redraft goes, I think I'm going to own a lot of him and the two starters. But I'm going to try and diversify here, just based on, there's always injuries with the older guys. So I don't want to have too many shares of Mostert or Wilson, but I think there's some opportunity in this backfield.
Yeah, especially in best ball. A guy like Raheem Mostert's
Yes.
always been awesome in best ball because he's such a home run hitter, right?
Yeah.
Like just 2 years ago when he was on San Fran, he not only had the fastest on field time, but he had the second fastest too. Back to
Yeah.
back games versus the Jets and Cardinals, 70+ yard plays, and they got hurt. That's been the rub with him, injury prone guy. What I like to see for Dynasty and why I'm in on A-Chain and Dynasty is that I like to see when a team has a weapon that they know how to use and that they like, and then they say, okay, you know what? Father Time's undefeated. Let's see if we can find another guy that can do the same thing this guy does. So
Well,
when you
A-Chain
have
is a perfect clone of Mostert. Sorry to
right,
interrupt it. I don't normally ask this because I try to focus on redraft for it, but A-Chain, where do you see yourself comfortable taking him in a rookie startup, like a rookie only draft? You comfortable at 106? Still
yeah,
too rich?
I'm doing my write ups now. So are we talking single QB or super flex? That's the real question.
Superflex typically. I seen him at 106 the other day in Superflex. I thought that was a tad rich.
That's a little high for me. So I'm doing mine is Bijan, the quarterbacks. Then I take Gibbs. Then I like the four wide receivers, the ones that
Yeah.
win the first round.
So
First
that
round
puts it
draft
at
capital for wide receivers. I like taking chances on those guys. And then after that, it's between A-Chain and Jonathan Mingo for me.
so
I
you're looking by the math in my head, 111, 112, 1-2 turn area.
back end, yep, back end
Perfect. That's
first round.
you even said the guy I like him with, Mingo.
Right.
That's where I like him. The 111, 112 paired there with Mingo. That's perfect. I love that answer. That's exactly where I got him.
Bingo. Yeah. And it's like Raheem Mostert, speedster. Now he's 31 years old. So
Is he that old?
yeah, he's up there, man. He's been around for
Wow.
a while. I mean, that's what happens when these guys he gets hurt like every year, so you hardly see him
Well,
play, and then the time
he
ticks away.
broke out
Like
at what, 25, 26
right,
before he had a breakout.
yeah. You look at a guy like Sterling Shepard, and he's almost 30 years old, and we've barely seen him play just because he gets hurt every year. So these guys that just kind of go out the back of your mind, they get old quick. I mean, like Darren Waller too. You know, like he's new to us, but he's 30, right? So that's the way it goes in fantasy.
Wilson, I feel, isn't as old, but he's got to be late 20s, 27,
27.
28. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, I think, especially in like a Scott Fishbowl type area where it gets so deep, I think I'm going to take my shots on A-Chain. I don't know how late it'll be. I don't think these guys are going to be end of the draft guys. Mostert, Wilson, A-Chain. I think you're going to get them in the middle rounds, but Gaskin and Ahmed, I think, are just there as injury insurance. But I like this backfield. There's lots of talent there, lots of speed, and they seem to fit this San Francisco AFC style here.
Right. I was
So
kind of hoping they would just go because the problem with this draft is of course they had to forfeit their first overall pick. Would have been
yeah,
21 overall for, sending a couple text messages to Tom Brady or whatever it was. I mean, I would pay a first round pick to hang out with Tom Brady as a Patriots fan, but not sure it was worth it at the end of the day for them. But yeah, so I wanted them to take like Bijan or Jameer Gibbs and just because I think this is a premier spot for a running back. That 49ers offense, as you alluded to, that Mike McDaniel brought over is great for a running back. They use Alex Ingold, the fullback, on like 40% of the snaps. They went
it's
out,
insane.
the 49ers have Trent Williams, who is like the staple of the offense. The Dolphins made it a priority to go out and get the best possible tackle on free agency the year McDaniel showed up, and they went and got Teron Armstead.
Oh, I
Who's
know. They stole him from my team.
stolen from the Saints, and he's graded out as a top 2, 3 tackle in the past, according to
Yeah.
Pro Football Focus. So he might not be Trent Williams, but in that particular offseason, as close as you were going to get. So it's a great spot for a running back, but they look like they're just going to use the hot hand approach, like
Always.
Shanahan likes. So
I wish they
which
had
goes,
drafted Zach Charbonnet, not
oh,
necessarily because of the fit, just so that he wouldn't murder my Ken Walker shares. I
I
forgot his
know.
name. I was so pissed off about it. I forgot the guy's name.
Just seeing red. Yeah, no,
I
I
hate
I
it.
really did not like that landing
I
spot,
hate
man.
Pete Carroll. That's all
I
I have to
know
say.
he's the worst.
With that, we'll transition into one of the more, well, I shouldn't say the entire wide receiver room being impressive, but probably one of the top three duos in the league. We've got the starters listed as Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Cedric Wilson, with the backups being Braxton Berrios and Chosen Anderson. We also have Elijah Higgins listed, but we'll get into him later and just exclude him for now. I would have liked to have seen them add an actual wide receiver here in the rookie class because, like, I guess Hill and Waddle are going to see all the targets. They really need a wide receiver 3, but like Anderson, Berrios, Wilson are pretty much blah to me. They're nothing.
Yeah, here's the thing about this offense, and you see it with the 49ers too. It's the same offense, it's the same scheme, right?
Yeah,
You can have 11 guys on the field at all times, right? So that's 5 linemen, a quarterback makes 6. Then you got a running back, 7, and the 2 wide receivers, which for this team, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. For the 49ers, it's obviously Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, right? That gets you up to 9. With these two offenses, they use a fullback on 40% of the snaps, 35-40% of the snaps. So Alex Ingold for this team, Kyle Juszczyk for the other
yeah,
team. When you have a guy playing that many snaps,
yeah.
there's not a lot of room for the last guy. With the 49ers, they use George Kittle. With this team, they use Durham Smythe. So you're looking at most a 50-60% snap share for the other guy. So basically, if they go slot, they bring in Cedric Wilson. If they're going to go with somebody that can stretch the field, they'll bring in Chosen Anderson. But neither of those guys are going to play 100% snap share. And that's why I love the wide receivers for fantasy, because the
Yeah.
snaps are highly consolidated, the targets are highly consolidated. So for
And
me,
that,
I don't necessarily need them to go crazy getting another
no,
wide
no.
receiver, because he's not going to play 100% of the snaps.
That leads me to two trains of thought here. I find that I like them more than the 49ers because as it is, it's concentrated more.
Yes.
You don't have the too many mouths to feed, which would mean Hill and Waddle are, much better option, obviously, than anything in San Fran. The other train of thought would be that if they choose to mirror pretty much exactly what the 49ers do, that means they're going to have to replace Mike Gesicki with a George Kittle type tight end, which means when we transition to tight ends, if Elijah Higgins is in fact being used as a tight end this year, he could be a sneaky value.
Yeah, that's why I was very surprised by their draft, because they had the opportunity to trade up if they wanted to get like a Michael Mayer or a pretty much any of the 2A tight ends. There were so many that went in the second round, like 8 guys went in the second round. I was very surprised they didn't go after a 2A tight end, because last year with Gesicki, he really is more of a slot guy.
Slot receiver, yeah.
Right. So he went from playing with Brian Flores and Chan Gailey's system that they were running with the big slot. He was playing like 80-90% of the snaps. With this team last year, he played 35%. Durham Smythe played 60 because they wanted the inline tight end. I was very surprised that they didn't go after Dalton Schultz in free agency, that they didn't add somebody. It was very strange to me. I'm wondering if maybe they have some sort of trade they're thinking about, but that's the one piece of this puzzle they're missing, right? You pointed out the George
Yeah.
Kittle piece, and they didn't even attempt to
With
find it.
Gesicki, yeah. Just when fantasy managers thought it couldn't get any worse than the way they were using Gesicki, and it had to be better in free agency. Welcome to New England. Have fun. Completely.
Exactly.
I said, "Oh, there's so many play." I was trying to buy him up. I'm like, he's got to go somewhere better. Oh,
Oh,
New England. I'm glad I didn't get any of them.
I
No,
was
thank you.
I was really hoping that Gesicki would go to the Packers and just play
I was gonna say
big slot
Packers. Yeah,
there, because like that's what like Luke Musgrave could play that position now, but yeah, it didn't really work out like that. And Elijah Higgins was a guy that I was on all offseason leading up because I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, we want guys that play wide receiver that we can start in the slot. And I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, he's saying at the combine, teams are asking him to play tight end. He said he was watching film of Evan Engram. So I'm like, okay, this guy could be the next Juwan Johnson, a guy that
what's
comes
the
in.
size on him? I don't know all that much
That's
about
the
him.
that's the problem is that he's 6'3", 235.
So small
So
for a tight
6'3",
end.
6'4", very small for a
He's
tight
not
end.
going to be out there blocking. I can tell you that.
Exactly. So that's the problem is that I think that what's going to happen here is, Gesicki was playing 35% of the snaps or whatever, and they looked at this draft and said, hey, we can replace that in the 6th round. But 35-40% of the snaps doesn't do anything for us in fantasy football. So I think this spot for Elijah Higgins is not going to be as good as I had hoped. I had hoped he would go somewhere where he could be a big slot tight end like Juwan Johnson. I think here he will do that, but just not. There's not going to be enough snaps. Too much
Yeah.
fullback snaps. Too many Durham Smythe snaps. So I don't know. I'm not sure I'm as fired up about it as I was hoping to be for this player.
All right, we've taken a look at all 4 positions. Now, I know you're not a psychic. Based on what you project to be, you have a general idea of the cost players are going to be this year in, redraft leagues, best ball. I'm using best ball ADP right now as my guide for redraft cost. Who would your number one target be on this team
Based
at what
on
you think will be the cost? Best
so
value.
yeah, so I've been drafting. I've actually done a few best ball drafts on underdog. Because like yourself, that's actually the best way to get ADP this time of
Early in
year.
the season, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially for the thing is for the first 5 or 6 rounds, best ball ADP lines up pretty closely to regular redraft ADP.
Absolutely.
It's after that where people in that format, you have to take 2 quarterbacks, you have to take two
Yeah.
tight ends. People are targeting these like boom bust players. That's where it starts getting a little wonky after 5 or 6. But for the first few rounds, it's pretty much the same. I'm at times getting Jalen Waddle in the 3rd round of these best ball
Wow.
drafts, and I see, yeah, second, 3rd round swing. I mean, if you want him in the 2nd round, he's there every time. But if he falls in the 3rd, it's an auto pick for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for sure.
and I mean, this is a guy that when you look at the last year, the top 20 wide receivers, right? There were 5 pairings in the top 20 that were on the same team, right? Like if you think about Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle. So, there's 17 teams out there mathematically that didn't have a single wide receiver in the top 20. So I have no problem taking the wide receiver 2 on a team. That's one of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
easiest discounts, right? DK
It's the same with
Metcalf.
the Bengals. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter if he's the wide receiver too. But
exactly. Since DK Metcalf came in the league, Tyler Lockett has outperformed his ADP
yeah,
every single year, every
absolutely.
single time. So that's one of the sneakiest discounts in my opinion. So I'm all for taking Jalen Waddle. As you alluded to, Devin A. Chain after the draft. Right now his ADP is not bad, but after the draft, it could get a little dicey. People see
It's
that
already gotten out of control in rookie drafts. Like I
right.
said, 106 in Superflex is about 4 picks too early for me. So
What happens is people go to sites like Player Profiler or Relative Athletic Score, and they see that the percentile that his speed is 99th percentile for the position, and they just can't contain themselves. They can't
yeah,
handle it, right? I see that. I see those 99s, and I'm like,
we're
oh,
not
that's a
big on him at Player Profiler. I can tell you that he's not someone we're a real high on. But
yeah.
see, I like the Waddle one if you can get him at that price. For me, I'm gonna own a lot of shares of Tua. Even in the startup dynasty ones I've done, like with analysts, he is going in super flex end of the 2nd round, like for Tua. I get it, the injury concerns, but I think I'm going to own a lot of shares of him. My work redraft league is my favorite league. It's been my most long running league. I think he's going to be someone I'm going to get out. It's single QB. I think I might be able to get him in round 10 or 12 easily, and that's a steal if I can wait and get him. And I think he's pretty much solidified as a top 10, top 12 QB.
Yeah, and if you wanted, like, that's the thing about sometimes it gets set up where you can't stack. It's very difficult to stack. Like in Superflex, you Superflex best ball trying to stack Joe Burrow with any of the with either
Yeah,
T Higgins or Jamar Chase. It's I mean you can't stack Burrow and Chase because they both go in the first round, right?
yeah,
So it becomes impossible. But with Tua, the way I've seen it shake out, like you said, you go Tua at the end of the second, Waddle's there with your next pick at the beginning of the third if you want to go tic tac double stack. You know what I mean? Like and obviously in a single QB, if you get Waddle or Tyreek Hill early on, then you just bump two up around and you can get that stack easily. Obviously, you don't want to reach too far. That negates any benefit of stacking, but it's an easy stack to do compared to some of the other stacks that are
yeah,
literally impossible. Like you'll never get Chase and Burrow. It's not
yeah.
going to happen. No,
At
in
cost,
single QB you might, but not in super
no, yeah,
flex.
well, in single QB it's easier, but not super
Of
flex.
course.
At cost, who would you be avoiding? For me, and it's not a total avoid, it's Tyreek Hill. I think I would just have rather have Waddle around later for pretty much the same or similar production than Tyreek Hill at that cost.
Yeah, what people missed, unless they look at the behind the scenes number, and that the reason that Waddle was going behind Tyreek Hill is that Waddle was a 7 yard A dot guy as a rookie. That's the same A dot that Amon-Ra St. Brown has had the last couple of years. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's a good player, but if you look at the targets, like he has to get 150 targets to have like 1,100 yards. Waddle, when Mike McDaniel came over, changed his role completely. Changed it to the roles of Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel. His average depth of target went from 7 yards up to 12. That's why Waddle actually got fewer targets in the second year, but he had like 200 more yards. He had like almost 1,400 yards. So I'll take the A dot all day long over a couple extra targets because at some point, especially in Dynasty, and this is why I'm buying him in every Dynasty league I can get my hands on him, at some point, Tyreek Hill is going to be gone or he's going to age out. And Tyreek Hill even told us that after his contract, he's done. What happens when the A dot goes up for Jalen Waddle and his targets go back to that level they were at before, or he becomes a 150, 160 target guy? Now
Yeah,
we're talking about these guys that have 1,700, 1,800 yards in this league. So Jalen
absolutely.
Waddle, to me, love that pick. And I'm fully with you. As long as Tyreek Hill is going before Jalen Waddle, I just wait and I take Waddle.
Take the cheaper, yeah. All right, we're running a little long on time, so good thing I only have one question left. One sleeper on this team for me. I think I'm just going to be owning. If he's low enough, I'm going to take Devon A. Chain in late rounds if I can get him. If not, I'm probably just going to take one of the two top running backs in a late round and play the San Francisco AFC wild running back roulette wheel here.
Yeah, I think honestly, to just throw one, because I mean, it's pretty consolidated offense. Anytime we have an ambiguous backfield with multiple names, I'm
Yeah,
always down in best ball to just take a shot on whoever is the last guy. So if people are grabbing Mostert early and people are reaching for A-Chain, I'll just sit back and I don't mind throwing a Jeff Wilson in there. He's going to score touchdowns. That's his
absolutely.
job. So in best ball, that can crack a lineup.
That's absolutely the perfect strategy. That's the perfect for ambiguous backfields. Just take the cheapest guy. I
Cheapest
think
guy.
that's what got me. Was it last year? It got me Stevenson. Actually, I should say it got me Stevenson at some point. At some
Right.
point, the ADP caught up and Stevenson was the more expensive. But for the longest time, Damian Harris was ahead of him. And I just took Steve. Even when it was Zeke and Pollard, I was taking Pollard.
Elijah Mitchell. That's a perfect example as
Yeah.
well. Right. So
Excuse me.
way she goes.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, for dropping by. That was excellent. You want to take another chance to tell everyone where they can find you?
Fantasy Alarm, lead NFL analyst, and follow me on Twitter at Coupe Fiasco. All my stuff is there these days. It's where it lives. And also, if you could do me a favor, download the Better Sports Network app. We're partnered with them. All our stuff is going through there. It's a lot of fun. It's a new, basically, it's a Sirius XM type experience with video and everything. Great shows on there. I'm on a bunch of them. So check that one out. Better Sports Network, BETTOR.
Okay, I'm gonna have to download that one after. I
Yeah.
didn't know about that.
Check it out, man. It's cool. It's very cool. Interactive. We're giving away stuff all the time. It's awesome.
Oh,
So
well,
give that
thanks
one a
again for
give
joining
that one
me.
a
Oh,
look.
sorry. You can tell I'm battling it here and going a little dry, but
You're a trooper, man. You're a trooper.
Thanks again for joining me. Everyone, this has been my thoughts on the Miami Dolphins with Andrew Cooper. Once again, I'm Aaron St. Dennis at the FF Mad Scientist anywhere on social media. And thanks again for joining us in the Mad Science Lab podcast. Come back again tomorrow. Not sure who we'll have on tomorrow, but we'll have a different analyst and a different team on every day until the end of May. So come back tomorrow for another episode. Thanks for joining me. Thanks again, Andrew.